Hello. Hello. Hello, chat. Wait, give me a second. Connect something. Oh, no, no, no. Camera. You saw my notes. Crap. You saw my notes about what happened last week. What's up, Greek Yogurt? How's it going? Rainbow Dragon. Nice of you to join. Miles. Laramco. Well, thanks for the great compliment. Captain Yasashi. How's it going? Didi says, gosh, I missed 2 streams, but I can bet Lin for me will be late again today. Oh, you were wrong. I'm on time. I'm on time today, right? I'm on time? You don't believe in me at all. Jeez. What's up, Wing Chun boys? Dan IRL, how's it going? Wait, I wasn't late. What do you mean? What's up, Nikki? Nice of you to join. That telescope I was talking about kind of looks like a Pokemon. Oh, the James Webb? What Pokemon does the James Webb Space Telescope look like? James. Well, I only know the first 150 Pokemon, so there's probably a Pokemon that it looks like. What's up, Ian? How's it going? Hey, Katie. Nice of you to join. So this week I okay, so I received some Christmas cards from viewers. Yeah, so I have a business address. So if you don't know, or why would you? Like deep within, if you dig into the about page of my channel, there's a business address where people can send stuff. I got some nice Christmas cards that people sent. It was very nice. They were very cool. Yeah, they're very sweet. I read them. I read them, and then I tossed them in the trash. You know my thing. I think we talked about this before. You know my thing with cards, right? With like holiday cards and stuff. I don't keep them, right? I just throw them away. What do you guys do with cards? So I read them. I appreciate them. It's not like I don't appreciate them. I appreciate them. I'll read them, and then when I'm done reading, then I'll just toss them away, right? I'll just toss them in the trash because what do you use them for? After you read them, they're useless. They're done. All the emotions, I've consumed all of the emotions, and then they're done. They've been drained of emotions, and they can be tossed away. Eat them. Eat the cards. Eat the cards on screen. Eat the cards. What do you mean? What do you do with cards? What do you do with Christmas cards or holiday cards or whatever? Do you guys just keep them in the box or something? Doesn't it pile up? It just causes. Well, you just have to keep them in your house. I don't know. It just takes up space. You need to toss them away, but you keep them because it would feel rude. Yeah, I used to feel rude, but then now I just throw them away. Like, no one, like, has anyone ever asked you afterwards, hey, did you read my card? Did you read what I wrote in my card? No. Oh, wait, no. Well, actually, they have. But then I did read. I do read the cards, right? But no one's going to ask you, hey, did you keep the cards? Hey, can I see the cards? Hey, can I see some evidence that you kept the cards? No, right? No one ever asks that. So just throw them away. Done. You keep all your cards forever and pin them up? Where do you pin them? Do you have a wall of just holiday cards? They just take up space. Thank you, Mora. Thank you. Okay. I'm glad someone agrees. Yeah. Now I do feel kind of bad. Okay, sometimes you'll get a Christmas gift, right? But then you don't use them, right? They're not useful to you. You don't have any, like, you don't have any inclination to use them. What do you do with those gifts? I used to feel rude re-gifting them, but now I just do that too. I'll just keep them, and then until I need to give someone a gift, and they'll be like, is that a good gift to give them? Maybe it is. And then I'll just re-gift it and give it to them. Yeah. That is too sensible. Agreed. Yeah, do you guys re-gift? What is your policy on re-gifting? How long do you wait? Do you wait? Do you re-gift, or do you just open it and then never use it? Or toss them in the trash? You slam dunk the cards into the trash? Okay, I don't do that. I'm not that heartless. I'll read them and be, oh, that's so nice. Okay. That's cool. That's cool. Your family doesn't do cards? Yeah, me neither. My family doesn't do cards. I never do cards. You are offended at regifting. Why? I feel like if I gave someone a gift, I don't like to. So first of all, I don't like getting gifts. I don't really like getting gifts. Okay. I figure, like, you know, if I wanted something, I would buy it. All right. I would probably buy it. So there's no reason for you to buy something for me. Okay. And if I didn't buy something, if I wanted something and I didn't buy it, it's probably because it costs a lot of money and no one's going to spend that much money buying it for me anyways. So I don't really like gifts. Yeah. So my policy. So the way I think about it is, if I give someone a gift and it's something that they don't like, that they'll never use, I would rather they re-gift it, right? I would rather they re-gift it and give it to someone else, right? Give it to someone else who will also not use that gift. I'm fine with that. Because you put time and effort in the gift. Maybe. Maybe I just don't put any time and effort into the gifts. Maybe that's the problem with me. All right. Reverse psychology. I love getting gifts. Oh. Ah, good thinking, Nikki. Shh, don't tell them. Don't tell them. All right. All right. Shall we get started? Shall we go? Shall we go? Linfamy is a cold-hearted yokai. No, I'm not cold-hearted. I disagree. You were excited at getting socks. Oh! Do you guys know, speaking of socks, before we get into it, speaking of socks, the wool socks are really good. Do you guys know about wool socks? I forget which brand it was. But like, they're thick and they're super warm. Holy shit. They're very comfy. I don't know, look them up on Amazon or something. Wool socks. some quality wool socks. They're more expensive than normal ones, but they should be because they're super comfortable. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, these. Yeah, any one of these, I guess. This is too much for me. That seems very thick. But there are thinner ones, but they're wool. They're way better than normal socks. I'm telling you. Just look up wool socks. Yeah, and they don't get wet and smelly. True. Absolutely. Normal socks wear out way too fast, okay? And then yeah, and then they develop holes, and then you're like, how big should the hole have to be for you to throw them away? Yeah, you also have that problem. I have that issue. A lot of my socks, the holes are legit this big. They fill the entire heel. Yeah. I mean, I would just be wearing them, okay? They just disintegrate, okay? All right, moving on. Moving on. Are we ready? Are we ready? All right, let's talk about what happened last week. Okay, last chapter. What happened? It was a big chapter, guys. It was a huge chapter. Okay, a lot of reveals, a lot of secrets came out. All right. So yesterday. Oh wait. I'm sorry. I forgot. Okay. I'm sorry. We gotta open my snack first, and then we get started. Okay. We got some chocolate pie. Chocolate pie. See that? See that? This looks good. Okay. I've never had this before, so this is the first time I'm opening. I don't know what it is, but it looks good. How do you open it? Oh, okay. Let's see. What? Why is it a puzzle? Oh. Oh, great. It comes in individually wrapped things. Oh, wait, no, it doesn't. Oh, it's a chocolate pie. What? Why is it so big? Okay, has directions, see? There's an arrow. Alright, let's see what it is. Okay. This looks weird. They're not individually wrapped, thank God. They're these kind. What the? What? Chocolate pie, right? So there's some sugary thing on the top. And there's like I see some chocolate chip, I think. Ah. Oh. Oh, it's not all sweet. It's actually kind of like a pie. Kind of like a pastry. It's actually bread, I think. Or some kind of dough. It's pastry-like. Not bad. It has some chocolate inside. That's pretty good. Okay. Okay. Oh, I like it. It's not too sweet because it has like pastry kind of a pastry kind of feel because of the dough. It's not too sweet. It's just right. It's pretty good. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hey, these are 9 out of 10, guys. Holy shit. Yeah. It was like a fat biscuit. Okay. Yeah. It does dry up my mouth though. You know what? Let me get some water. I'll be right back. What do you rate it? I said 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. It's really good. I would recommend it. All right. So, what happened last week, okay? What happened last week? A lot of secrets came out last week, all right? So, we had Duan Yu and Mu Wanqing. They were having a nice dinner with the family, right? With Duan Yu's family, his mom and his dad. And then during the course of the dinner, they're talking, and Mu Wanqing sees a red mark on his mother's hand, right? And then she immediately guesses her name. And his mother was surprised. She was like, "Oh, how did you know my name?" And she was even more surprised when Mu Wanqing suddenly stands up and shoots 2 poisoned arrows at his mother, right? Luckily, Duan Yu sees it in time. He jumps in to save her, and he takes the 2 arrows in his chest, right? Like a good son does, right? So, his dad sees it. He jumps up. His dad freezes her and then tells her to give Duan Yu the antidotes, which she does because she doesn't want to kill Duan Yu. She just wanted to kill his mother. So it turns out that her master had ordered her to kill a person with that name. She just didn't know that it turned out to be Duan Yu's mother. Okay. So a lot of reveals came out. Turns out that Mu Wanqing's master, the one who ordered her to kill the mother, Mu Wanqing's master was a lover of Duan Yu's dad. Right. So the master wanted to kill the other women in his dad's life. Right. So kill the other woman in her man's life, so that she wants to steal the guy. Right. She wants to steal her man back. Now, Mu Wanqing thought that she was an orphan, but turns out her master is her mom. All right, and Duan Yu's dad is her dad, which means that Duan Yu is her half brother, which means that she got engaged to her half brother. All right, and she's like devastated. We find out that Duan Yu's dad has had at least 4 women in his life, maybe at separate times, maybe at the same time. I'm not too clear about that. 2 of the women actually come to the palace, and they work together with the 4 villains to kidnap Duan Yu. Right, and so Duan Yu is kidnapped. Duan Yu's dad captures the 2 women, and they're like having an argument. He still kind of is in love with all of the women. It seems. All right. It seems. All right. So he's like super flirty with all of these women, right in front of his wife. So he captures these 2 women who had worked with the 4 villains to kidnap his son. They're having an argument, and then we end with the emperor entering the room. Right, the emperor enters, and then we'll see how he deals with this situation. All right. That's that. That's what happened last week. A lot of reveals, guys. A lot of reveals. All right, chapter 7, part 2. Just as the dispute was at its noisiest, the curtain door was parted, and a man wearing a yellow satin gown entered. 3 long strands of a beard was on his face, which was fine and attractive. It was the emperor of Dali, Duan Zhengming. All right, so the emperor enters. Duan Zhengchun, this is the emperor's brother, which is also Duan Yu's dad, right? Duan Zhengchun cried, "Imperial brother!" Emperor Baoding nodded. Stretching out with a finger, he pointed towards Madame Zhong. Madame Zhong only felt a warm sensation in the top of her dantian as 2 warm currents of energy streamed towards her leg. Immediately, her acupoints were unsealed, and her blood began to flow unimpeded, and she rose to her feet. Zhong Wanchou, seeing that Emperor Baoding possessed the godlike ability to seal acupoints through the air, was shocked. Utter amazement filled his face, and his jaw hung open slackly. He couldn't say a single word. He never would have imagined that someone possessed such an unfathomable ability. So he could seal and unseal your acupoints, your acupuncture points from afar, right? So apparently this is a really big deal. So his martial arts is really of a high level. Duan Zhengchun said, "Imperial brother, Yu was kidnapped by them." Emperor Baoding nodded. "The Marquis of Virtuous Enlightenment has already informed me. Younger brother Chun, if an offspring of the Duan dynasty, has been kidnapped by others, then his parents and his uncles will naturally go and rescue him. It is not acceptable for us to hold others hostage." Duan Zhengchun's face reddened. "Understood." Emperor Baoding's speech was straightforward and upright, keeping in with his dignity and status. The hidden meaning of his words was thus: "You wanted to keep them hostage so as to exchange them for your son. Isn't this an act which would tarnish the honorable name of Dali's Duan dynasty? How can we, the majestic royal scions of Dali's Duan dynasty, use this sort of method against a few female commoners?" The emperor was silent for a few moments, then spoke to Zhong Wanchou. "The 3 of you may leave at your leisure. Within 3 days, the Duan dynasty will send delegates to your 10,000 Calamities Gorge to retrieve our people." Zhong Wanchou replied, so this is the ugly guy, right? Who's married to one of Duan Yu's dad's former lovers, right? Zhong Wanchou replied, "My 10,000 Calamities Gorge is truly a hidden, secretive place. You might not be able to even find it. Would you like for me to give you directions?" He wanted for Emperor Baoding to ask for his assistance, so he could refuse and make things hard for him. Who would have thought that Emperor Baoding would pay him no mind? With a sweep of his sleeves, Emperor Baoding said, "Escort our guests out." Zhong Wanchou had an explosive temper, but in front of this majestically composed Emperor Baoding, he found himself utterly bewildered. Upon hearing him say, "Escort our guests out," Zhong Wanchou said, "Fine, we'll leave. All my life, your old man hates those surnamed Duan the most. There isn't a single good person in the world who has the surname Duan." Grabbing his wife by the hand, he turned to leave the room in a towering rage. Madame Zhong grabbed Qin Hongmian by her sleeve. Sister, let's go. Qin Hongmian cast a glance at Duan Zhengchun. This is his other lover. But saw that he was silent. She couldn't prevent her heart from being filled with a sour pain. She glared fiercely at Dao Baifeng. This is his wife. Then lowered her head and left. After the three of them left the room, they leapt up onto the rooftops. Standing at the corner of the eaves, Gao Shengtai bowed slightly and said, "Escorting our guests out." From the rooftops, Zhong Wanzhou spat, then vehemently replied, "You guys are all false hypocrites. Not a single one of you is a good person." Exerting his internal energy, he flew from one rooftop to another. Very shortly, he arrived at the palace walls. Once more exerting his energy, he jumped up, extending his left foot to step on the top of the wall. But suddenly, another person appeared, standing right at the place where he was about to alight. Wearing a broad gown and a loose girdle, it was Gao Shengtai, who had come to escort the guest out, as he said he would. Gao Shengtai was initially behind him, but somehow he arrived at the wall before Zhong Wanzhou did. He then saw where Zhong Wanzhou was about to step, and took the position before Zhong Wanzhou had a chance to. Zhong Wanzhou's body was in midair. There was no way for him to retreat, nor was there a way for him to change directions. He shouted, "Scram!" He shot out twin palms to attack Gao Shengtai. He thought to himself, "The power of my twin palms is enough to shatter tablets and crack open boulders. If the opponent wants to take it head on, I'll definitely be able to knock him off the wall. Even if his internal strength is on par with mine, I'll be able to borrow his energy and change direction to stand next to him on top of the wall." But just moments before his twin palms would have struck the other on his stomach, Gao Shengtai's body suddenly leaned backwards, as though he were an iron bridge. Both of his feet remained firmly planted on top of the wall, but he had gotten out of the way of Zhong Wanzhou's twin palms. Zhong Wanzhou, having missed his attack, secretly cried out to himself, "Oh no!" His body had already passed by Gao Shengtai's reclined form. So I guess he's like this. So he has his foot on the ground where he's leaning back horizontally. With his attack having missed, his chest, abdomen, and lower body were totally open to a counterattack. At this point, the enemy could arbitrarily strike him as he pleased. Fortunately, Gao Shengtai did not strike him at all. As Zhong Wanzhou's feet landed on the ground, he said to himself, "Thank goodness." Immediately afterwards, Madame Zhong and Qin Hongmian also passed the wall. I think they're just showing us how Gao Shengtai is also a really powerful martial artist. Gao Shengtai straightened his body and turned around to face them. "Forgive me for not escorting you any further." Zhong Wanzhou let out a sound. Suddenly his trousers began to fall. He hastily extended his hand and caught them just in the nick of time, else he would have been utterly humiliated. Only then did he realize that his belt had been broken by Gao Shengtai with a flick of the finger when he flew over Gao Shengtai's reclining form. If it weren't for the fact that Gao Shengtai was showing mercy, he would have been struck by his finger on his dantian and turned into a corpse on the spot. He was half alarmed, half angered. With a cough, he turned to once more face the wall and spat out a dense mouthful of phlegm. The phlegm was shot out with great accuracy and great power. Mu Wanqing left the south... Okay, that was weird. Mu Wanqing left the South Subduing Palace in a daze. Okay, so this is Mu Wanqing. She realized that she was engaged to her brother. Alright, now she's super sad. Mu Wanqing left the South Subduing Palace in a daze. She had heard but ignored the hails of Dao Baifeng and Zhong Wanzhou. Covering up her face, she sprinted away. She only felt that in all the vastness of the earth, there wasn't a single place for her to take shelter. In the middle of a wild mountainous terrain, she blindly ran and leapt about in a state of confusion until the coming of dawn. She was now so exhausted that both of her legs were limp and painful. Only now did she come to a halt. Leaning against a large tree, she stamped her feet and shouted, "I'd rather die! I don't want to live anymore!" Even though she was filled with resentment and anger, she had no idea who it was her hatred should be directed towards. My darling Dawn wasn't fickle or unfaithful to me. It was just that the stars were misaligned, and he turned out to be my brother by the same father. My master turned out to be my mother. These past years, she toiled and labored so hard to bring me up and raise me. Her benevolence towards me is as weighty as a mountain. How can I possibly blame her? The south subduing prince is my father, but although he was not faithful to my mother, perhaps he had many hidden difficulties which prevented him from being with her. He showed me a pleasant demeanor and showered me with love. He even said that if there was anything I desired, that I needed only to let him know, and he would strive with all his ability to make it happen. Alas, this desire of mine he was simply unable to fulfill. Mother wasn't able to marry father. This was no doubt due to Dao Baifeng's interference. That must be why she wanted me to kill her. But if I were in her shoes, I definitely wouldn't let my darling Duan have a second woman either. And she even entered a convent and became a nun. No doubt father was faithless towards her as well, causing her to be so broken-hearted. I shot 2 quarrels towards her outside the temple of hollow jade, but she wasn't angry with me at all. At the palace, I shot 2 more quarrels towards her, and even harmed her beloved only child, but she still didn't make any trouble for me. It seems she isn't a cruel, vicious woman either. No matter what she thought, so she doesn't know who to be angry at. No matter what she thought, she was filled with sorrow. I need to forget about darling Duan and never think about him again. This was something that was easily said, but to forget about him just like that was something she simply could not do. Every time Duan Yu's attractive features and slender figure sprang to the fore of her mind, her chest felt as though someone had struck her with a fist. After a while, she tried to console herself. In the future, I'll just view him as my elder brother. My elder brother. I used to be a fatherless, motherless orphan. Now, all of a sudden, I not only have a father and a mother, but also such a wonderful elder brother. I should be ecstatic. Stupid girl, what are you so sad about? But she had already been fallen into love's trap. The more deeply she became entangled, the more deeply it bound her. When she miserably waited for Duan Yu at the peak of Mount Wuliang for 7 days and 7 nights, she had become immersed in the web of love and would never be able to extricate herself again. She heard the roaring sound of water, unceasing, galloping, and surging forth. Suddenly, Mu Wanqing's heart became severed from all earthly desires and dreams. She sought only death. She headed towards the sound of running water. Uh-oh. Not good. After crossing a mountain, she saw the grandiose, majestic sight of the Lantang River falling down from the mountain peak. She took a deep breath. She thought to herself, all I need to do is steel myself and jump, and I will never have any cares or worries again. Following the mountain slope, she arrived by the side of the river. The morning sun was just rising. Casting its gentle glow upon the jade-like river, it appeared as though a layer of gold had been sheathed on the water. If she really jumped down, then she would never be able to see this beautiful and wondrous sight again, nor any of the other wonderful things in the world. Extricate definition. Extricate means to remove yourself from a situation, to get out of there, get out, to extricate yourself. To free yourself from a constraint or difficulty. Yeah. Free, release, get out, remove, withdraw. Standing quietly by the river, her thoughts swirled about like the waves. Suddenly, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed that several 100 feet away, someone was sitting on top of a large rock. This person was completely still and was wearing a green gown that was the same color as that of the green cliffs. This was why, even though she had been at the riverside for a long time, she hadn't noticed him. Mu Wanqing cast him a few glances and thought to herself, probably just a corpse. She could kill with but a lift of her hand, and so naturally wasn't afraid of a corpse. Feeling curious, she quickly walked towards the body to investigate. The man in a green gown was old, with a long beard that stretched down to his chest. He had a pitch-black face, and both of his eyes were wide open and fixed on the center of the river. Mu Wanqing said, "So, it isn't a corpse after all." After she took a closer look, she noticed that within the eyes of the corpse was a look of great intelligence, and that there was some color in his face. Mu Wanqing extended her hand, waving it beneath his nose to test for breath. It seemed as though there was a sign of breathing, and yet there also wasn't. Next, she touched his face. Strangely, it felt both warm and cold. When she extended a hand to touch his chest, it seemed as though his heart was both still and beating. Absolutely baffled, she said, "This person is so strange. If I want to call him a dead person, he seems to have the characteristics of the living. But if I were to call him a living person, he seems so much more like a dead person." Suddenly, a voice said, "I am a living person." Mu Wanqing was very surprised. She quickly turned her head, but saw no one behind her. The stones scattered by the riverside were all no bigger than eggs. There was no place for anyone to hide. And while she was inspecting that freak, she had clearly seen that when the sound of that voice entered her ears, that person had not moved his lips at all. She shouted, "Who is playing tricks on me? Are you tired of living?" Retreating 2 steps, her back was now towards the river, her eyes closely scanning the other 3 directions. She saw nothing, but heard a voice say, "I am truly tired of living." Mu Wanqing's surprise was not small at all. The only person in front of her was this freak, but she clearly saw that his lips hadn't moved. Deciding he wasn't the one who had spoken, she loudly said, "Who is speaking?" That voice replied, "You are speaking." Mu Wanqing said, "Who is the person who is speaking with me?" That voice said, "Nobody is speaking with you." I think it's supposed to be echoing. Oh, I don't have a thing. You know, one of these days we should buy something that makes like sound effects for my voice, like a voice changer, where I can just click a button and it'll do like an echo. It'll do like an echo or like a woman's voice or something. That'll be cool. I'm sure they have those, right? I'm sure they sell those things. Mu Wanqing hurriedly spun around 3 times, but saw nothing aside from her own shadow. By now, she had already figured out that the voice must be coming from the freak in a green gown. Summoning her courage, she walked towards him and pressed his lips shut with her hands. So she shut his lips. Then she asked, "Are you the one speaking to me?" That voice replied, "No." Mu Wanqing didn't feel the slightest vibration from her fingers on his lips. She asked, A person is clearly speaking to me. Why are you saying there isn't?" That voice replied, "I am not a person. I am not even myself. I no longer exist in this world." Mu Wanqing suddenly felt her hair stand on end. She thought to herself, "Can it really be a ghost?" She asked, Are you a ghost?" That voice replied, "You yourself said..." Oh, should I do like a ghostly voice? Oh, maybe, yeah, we should do that. "You yourself said that you do not want to live anymore, and were going to kill yourself and become a ghost. Why are you afraid of a ghost then?" Mu Wanqing forcefully replied, "Who says I'm afraid of ghosts? I fear neither heaven nor earth." That voice replied, "There is one thing you are afraid of." Mu Wanqing made a sound. "I fear nothing." The voice said, "You fear it. You fear it. You fear a perfectly fine husband suddenly turning into your own brother by blood." These words were like a cudgel strike to her head. He was right. Mu Wanqing's legs suddenly felt weak, and she sat down on the ground. After being dazed for a long time, she murmured, "You're a ghost. You're a ghost." That voice said, "I have a method to change Duan Yu from being your brother to being your husband again." Quivering, Mu Wanqing replied, You're lying to me. This is the will of the heavens. You can't change it." That voice said, "Heaven? The Lord of Heaven deserves to die. He is an asshole. No need for us to pay attention to him. I have a way to turn your brother into your husband. Do you want it or not?" Originally, Mu Wanqing had been utterly disheartened, and she had felt utterly detached from the world. These words truly came as though they had descended from the skies. Even though she half believed, half doubted, she urgently said, I want it. I want it." But that voice fell silent. After a while, Mu Wanqing said, "Who are you? Let me see you. Is that all right?" The voice replied, "You've been staring at me for a very long time now. Haven't you stared enough?" After a moment, it continued, "Even I do not know if I am still myself, alas." Only when letting out this long sigh did he betray the feeling of deep sorrow and depression in his heart. Cudgel definition? Like a weapon, right? A stick that you can hit people with? A cudgel? Like a bat or a hammer? Like a weapon, right? Yeah. Yeah, the stick. A club. No doubt. Okay, so how is this guy gonna turn it? It's gonna make it so that they're not brothers and sisters. No doubt was left in Mu Wanqing's mind at all that the voice came from the old man in a green gown who sat before her. She asked, "How can you speak without your lips moving?" The man replied, "I am a living corpse. My lips cannot move. My voice comes from my abdomen." Oh. Although Mu Wanqing was highly disciplined, she still had a childish personality at times. Just moments ago, she was feeling extremely sorrowful, but upon hearing that this person claimed that he could speak with his abdomen, she couldn't help but feel fascinated. "Speaking with your stomach, that'd truly be a bizarre thing." The man in the green robe replied, "Extend your hand and rest it against my belly. Then you'll understand." Mu Wanqing extended her hand and placed it against his stomach. The man in the green robe said, "My stomach is vibrating when I speak. Can you feel it?" Mu Wanqing indeed felt the man's stomach quiver with every word he spoke. Laughing, she said, That's so very weird." She didn't know that the man in green robe, practiced a form of ventriloquism. There were thousands of puppet masters and ventriloquists in the world, but to be able to speak with such clarity was truly no easy feat. It could only be achieved with a deep and profound internal energy. Mu Wanqing circled around him a few times, closely examining him. She asked, "If your mouth isn't able to move, how do you eat?" The man in the green robe stretched out his hands. One hand gripped his upper lip, whereas the other gripped his lower lip. He pulled his mouth open, then held his mouth open with his left hand while tossing something in his mouth with his right. With a gulping sound, he swallowed it. That is how. Okay, so I guess his mouth doesn't work, but his esophagus still works. Mu Wanqing sighed. Alas, what a pity. If you eat like this, how can you possibly taste your food? Suddenly she saw that all of the flesh on his face was stiffened, and he could not close his eyes. Neither expressions of anger nor joy could be seen on this man's face. This was the reason why, when she first saw him, she thought that he was a corpse. Although her fear had dissipated, she suddenly thought to herself, this person is himself in such dire straits. How can he possibly counter the will of heaven and change her brother into her husband? Evidently, all the words he said earlier were just nonsense. She muttered to herself for a long time, then sighed. Turning her body, she began to walk away, only to hear the voice say, I am going to make Duan Yu into your husband. You cannot leave. Mu Wanqing laughed dully, then took a few steps towards the west. Suddenly, she stopped and turned around. The two of us don't know each other. How can you know what is in my heart? Can it be that you know my darling Duan? The man in the green robe replied, That which is in your heart I am naturally aware of. From the sleeves of his arms, he suddenly withdrew a pair of thin black metal canes. Let's go. Tapping the rock on which he sat with his left cane, he suddenly rose into the air. With ease and grace, he landed on the cane over 10 steps away. Mu Wanqing saw that both of his feet remained in midair, and that he supported himself only on that one metal cane. Despite that, his body remained exceptionally steady. Curious, she asked, Your 2 legs? The man in the green robe said, My legs were crippled long ago. Enough! From now on, you are no longer allowed to ask questions about me. So he threw a cane, and then he just jumped into the air and landed on the cane, like he's sitting on the cane. Okay. What is alas? What is alas? I don't know if it has an actual meaning. Alas is just something that, like, it's kind of like when you're sighing or you're like exasperated. Exasperated. It's just a word you say. Like, alas. Does it actually have yeah, so an expression of grief, pity, or concern. Like, that kind of like a sigh. Mu Wanqing said, And if I keep on asking? Just after the 4th word had left her mouth, she felt her legs turn soft. She fell down. The man in green had moved as quickly as a gust of wind and had arrived by her side, then tapped her twice at the back of her knees with a steel cane. He had followed that with a single blow from the cane, which had caused pain so deep it reached her marrow. Ah! She let out a loud cry. The man in green tapped her 2 more times, releasing her sealed acupoints. His movements were so fast as to be unbelievable. Mu Wanqing leapt to her feet. Angrily, she said, You are so impolite. Unfastening her sleeves, she was about to shoot a quarrel at him. The man in green said, If you shoot a quarrel at me, I will spank you. Oh, okay. I didn't know we're going in that direction. If you shoot 10 quarrels at me, I will spank you 10 times. If you don't believe me, try for yourself. Mu Wanqing thought to herself, If that quarrel of mine hit him, he would have died on the spot. How could he possibly hit me back? But this man possesses an incredible godlike ability. His martial arts is even better than that of the divine crocodile. I probably wouldn't be able to hit him with my quarrels. It looks like he'll be able to do as he says he will. If he really ended up spanking me, what a humiliation that would be. She heard the man say, If you no longer dare to attack me, Then obediently listen to my instructions. You may not disobey. Mu Wanqing said, I'm not going to listen to your commands. But although she was outwardly defiant, her left hand released the mechanism for shooting out quarrels. The man in green strode forward, using those two thin black metal canes in lieu of his arms and legs. Walking behind him, Mu Wanqing saw that those two canes were each roughly 3 feet long. So he's walking using two metal canes, I think. Right? Yeah. So his feet are not touching the ground. He's just walking with the two canes. Like his feet are in the air. Walking behind him, Mu Wanqing saw that those two canes were each roughly 3 feet long. His strides were twice as long as that of ordinary people. Summoning her energy, Mu Wanqing followed him rapidly, only managing to follow him with an effort. The man in green climbed mountains and traversed ravines as though he were walking on flat plains. He did not travel on the mountain paths, but rather made his own way. No matter how rough the terrain was, he would pass through it with ease with a tap of a cane. This put great hardship on Mu Wanqing. Her sleeves and skirts were ripped and torn into many slices by thorns and bushes, but she did not complain or give any signs of weakness. After crossing several mountain peaks, far off in the distance, a large, dense copse of trees could be seen. Mu Wanqing thought to herself, We've arrived at the 10,000 Calamities Gorge. She asked, What are we doing here? The man in green turned around. Suddenly, his metal canes flew out with a so sound. One knocked on her right leg. Then he said, Are you going to keep babbling? Oh yeah, you can't ask questions. Based on Mu Wanqing's temperament, in the past, if someone mistreated her like this, even if she knew she was not their match, she wouldn't put up with this. But she saw that the man in green's martial arts were so very incredible, and faintly thought in her heart that perhaps he really could help her achieve her dream. She only replied, Don't think I'm afraid of you. I'm just giving way to you for the time being. Dun, 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 dun. What is quarrel? A quarrel is like a bolt, right? A bolt. So like an arrow, but smaller. Yeah. So she shoots quarrels or bolts from her mechanism or whatever. Weapons. Yeah, a short, heavy, square-headed arrow or bolt used in a crossbow. Cops definition. I'm thinking cops. I'm thinking cops means a group of trees. No, I'm pretty sure that's what it means. A group of trees. Just from context alone. A small group of trees. Okay. There you go. There you go. Voice modifier. I'll think about getting the voice modifier. The modifier. I'll think about it. Maybe not to change the voices, like I can still do the different voices, but maybe to do like an echo. Echoes are cool, right? You want that, and probably some other things. Yeah, or sound effects. I'm not very good at the sound effects. Like I never forget to do them. I have a lot of sound effects, guys. Like listen. This is a slap. 3 slaps. This is like there's a guy laughing. I never remembered to do them during the readings. The man in green said, "Let's go." He did not pass into the forest, but rather circled behind the gorge, taking a sloped path. He appeared to be very familiar with the layout of the area. Mu Wanqing wanted to ask him how, but was afraid that he would wave the stick and whack her again. She could only swallow back the question, just as it had almost exited her lips. She saw that as the road they took continued to twist and turn, it took them farther away from the gorge proper and deeper into the rear of the gorge. In the past, when she came to the 10,000 Calamities Gorge to meet with her martial uncle, Gan Bao Bao, she had stayed at the gorge for many days, but she had never come here before. She never would have imagined that the 10,000 Calamities Gorge would have such a wild, desolate, hidden, and remote place. After traveling for several kilometers, they arrived within a large wooded area. All around them were ancient trees that stretched far up in the sky. Although the sun was shining brightly within the woodland, it was as dark as dusk. The deeper they went, the more dense the forest growth, until it was necessary to turn their bodies sideways to squeeze through the trees. After walking for a few hundred more feet, she saw two enormous trees which had grown into each other, forming a large interlinked wall that was impassable. The man in green extended his left cane and lightly waved it behind Mu Wanqing's back. Mu Wanqing's body suddenly rose high up in the air and floated onto the top of the tree wall. Mu Wanqing could only accept this, and she obediently made her way past the tree branches, jumping down on the other side of the tree wall. A large empty space appeared before her eyes with a single lonely stone house in the middle. The appearance of that house was extremely strange. It looked as though it had been formed from boulders, which weighed over 100,000 jin, which that's probably Chinese word for some kind of weight. Much like a little mountain that had an entrance to a cave on its side. The man in green shouted, "Enter!" Mu Wanqing gazed towards the stone house. It was extremely dark inside. Who knew what type of monster might there be? How could she dare to rashly enter? But she suddenly felt a palm press against her back. She quickly tried to dodge, but the man in green had already exerted his force, pushing her into the stone house. Mu Wanqing used her left palm to protect her body, executing the stance Dawn Wind Whisks the Willow to protect her face. She was afraid that some sort of monster might attack from within the darkness, but all she heard was a rumbling sound as the entrance to the house was suddenly sealed by a heavy object. She was shocked. As she rushed to the entrance to push the object away, she felt that the material under her hand was rough and coarse. It was a gigantic boulder. Oh crap. He trapped her. She's stuck inside this house, this stone place. She exerted all her strength with her two arms, but couldn't budge the boulder at all. She tried even harder, but felt like a dragonfly trying to push a stone column. How could she move it? She shouted, "Hey, why are you imprisoning me here?" Only to hear the man in green reply, "Have you already forgotten the matter which you begged me about?" His voice penetrated the huge boulder via some small cavities on the top of it, and was extremely clear. Mu Wanqing calmed herself down. She saw, although the boulder was blocking the entrance, many small openings around it were exposed. Some were a third of a foot wide, others were perhaps 1 foot, but none of them would allow her to escape. Mu Wanqing shouted, "Let me out! Let me out!" Nothing came in response from outside. Pressing her eye against a crack, she peered outside. The man in green was in midair, flying over the distant tree wall, as though he were a large green bird. Turning around, she opened her eyes widely. She saw that the room had both a bed and a table, and that someone was sitting on the bed. She was startled. and called out, You! That person stood up, then walked forward 2 steps. He called, Sister Wan, you came as well? His voice was filled with surprised joy. It was Duan Yu. What the? Good time for a break. All right, give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes break. We'll be right back. And we're back. Okay, so Mu Wanqing is feeling sad, and then she meets this old man, this old dude. And the old dude was like, I can turn Duan Yu into your husband. Okay. You want that? You want that? She's like, yeah. Right, and then she gets trapped by him. In this cave or in this hut or something made of stone. And then inside it, she sees Duan Yu. What is gonna happen? What is going to happen? Have I sung Reflection for you? I don't think I've sang Reflection before. And I hope I never will. No. It's a good song. What is Duan Yu doing here? Okay, so let's see. In the middle of her despair, Mu Wanqing suddenly saw her beloved darling. She was so happy that she rushed towards him, throwing herself into his embrace. Okay, don't do that. Although the light in the stone house was faint, Duan Yu could see that her face was deathly pale, and that 2 teardrops had forced their way out of her eyes. He held her firmly in his arms. Her 2 cherry-red lips were quivering, and he couldn't resist lowering his head to give her a kiss. When did this turn into a Pornhub? Oh my god. But just as their lips met, they immediately both thought to themselves, we're brother and sister. We definitely can't act like this. Both their bodies shook, and they released each other's arms, each retreating a few steps. The 2 of them both backed into the stone walls, staring at each other with stricken eyes. Wait. Oh, that's her crying? Who cries like that? What? How do I do that voice? Mu Wanqing suddenly began to cry. In a soft voice, Duan Yu consoled her. Sister Wan, it is our destiny, as is willed by the heavens. Don't feel so agonized. To have such a wonderful sister as you fills me with joy. Mu Wanqing repeatedly stomped on the floor. Crying, she said, I insist on feeling agonized. I refuse to be joyful. If you're really so happy, then you have no conscience. Duan Yu sighed. What can be done? Perhaps it would be better if we had never met. Mu Wanqing said, It isn't as though I wanted to meet you. Who told you to come looking for me? Even if it weren't for you, I probably still wouldn't have been killed. You harmed my black rose and caused her to die. You harmed me and caused me to be so unhappy for so long. You harmed me and caused my master to become my mother. You harmed me and caused your father to become my father. You harmed me and somehow caused yourself to become my elder brother. I don't want it. I don't want any of it. Now you've harmed me and caused me to be imprisoned in here. I want out. I want out. Duan Yu said, Sister Wan, it's all my fault. Don't be angry. Let's slowly think of a way to escape. I'm not escaping. Dying inside here, dying outside of here, it's all the same to me. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. Just moments ago, she was loudly shouting, I want out. But within the blink of an eye, it had changed to, I'm not leaving. Duan Yu knew that her heart was greatly disturbed, and that for now there would be no way to get through to her. He fell silent. Mu Wanqing was throwing a fit, but saw that Duan Yu ignored her. She asked, Why aren't you talking? Duan Yu replied, What do you want me to say? Tell me what you were doing here. My apprentice kidnapped me. Mu Wanqing asked, confused. Your apprentice? Suddenly, she remembered that the divine crocodile had accepted Duan Yu as his master. She couldn't help but laugh through her tears. You should act as a master would and order him to release you. Duan Yu replied, I ordered him to do so more than a few times and put on the demeanor of a very stern and imposing master, but he said that he would only release me if I bowed to him and accepted him as master as well. Ha! Most likely you didn't act the part out properly. That's probably how it is. Sister Wan, who is it that caught you? Mu Wanqing briefly summarized her meeting with the man in green, but with regards to the matter of turning her brother into her husband, she left it out. Duan Yu, hearing that this person couldn't move his lips but could speak with his stomach, was crippled but could move as though he were flying, couldn't help but feel vastly amused. He couldn't help but repeatedly ask Mu Wanqing questions, his tongue clicking incessantly. The two of them chatted for a long time. Then, suddenly, with a cracking sound, a bowl was passed into the room via a hole in the boulder. A voice said, Eat! Duan Yu reached out and took the bowl. He saw that inside was a dish of fragrantly cooked red roasted pork. Next, the man passed in 10 or so steamed buns. Duan Yu put both the dishes and the steamed buns on the table. In a low voice, he whispered, Do you think there's any poison in the food? Mu Wanqing replied, If they wanted to kill us, it would be an easy task. No need for them to poison us. Duan Yu thought that this made sense. He was also extremely hungry and said, Then let's eat. Clamping some of the pork inside a steamed bun, he handed one to Mu Wanqing. Then he started to eat as well. The person outside said, After eating... Wait, we don't know if that's the same man, right? After eating, put the bowl outside. Someone will come to take it. After he finished speaking, he immediately left. Mu Wanqing peered past the boulder. She saw that person pull himself up past the tree wall, then descend on the other side. She thought to herself, The person who delivered food has only an ordinary skill. Walking back to Duan Yu's side, she started to eat the pork and the steamed buns. While eating, Duan Yu said, Don't be worried, my father and uncle will definitely come to rescue us. Although the divine crocodile and Yu Erniang's martial arts might be high, they aren't necessarily a match for my father. And if my uncle himself comes, it will be like the wind scattering the leaves. They'll flee at the mere sight of his oncoming force. Mu Wanqing let out a loud sound. He's just the emperor of Dali. What's so special about his martial arts? I don't believe he can beat the man in the green robe. He'll probably just lead a few thousand armored cavalry and invade this place. Duan Yu repeatedly shook his head. Not so, not so. The ancestor of the Duan lineage used to be a respected figure within the Wulin of the Central Plains. Even though he became the emperor of Dali, he wouldn't dare forget about the rules of the Wulin. If he took advantage of his position to bully others and achieve victory by superior force of numbers, wouldn't Dali's Duan dynasty be derided by all the heroes of the world? Mu Wanqing nodded. I understand. Even after the people of your family became emperors and princes, they were unwilling to throw away their standing as heroes of the Jianghu. Duan Yu said, My uncle and my father often tell me this. This is the meaning of the saying, a person must not forget his origins. Mu Wanqing made a contemptuous sound. Peh! Their mouths are full of righteousness and morality, but they act in shameless, despicable ways. Since your father already had your mother, why would he come after my master as well? Startled, Duan Yu said, Eh? How can you insult my father? He's your father too, you know. Besides, of the princes and dukes in the world, how many of them don't have multiple wives? Even if they had 8 or 10 wives, it still wouldn't be a big deal. Actually, during the Northern Song dynasty, the north was occupied by the Khitan. The center was occupied by the Great Song. The northwest was occupied by the western Xia, the southwest ruled by Tibet, and the south by Dali. The princes and dukes of these 5 countries all had, in addition to a formal wife, a large number of concubines. At the very least, they would have 3 or 4, some even had dozens. Even high-ranking nobles or officials would have a few concubines. This is how it had been since ancient times, since the beginning of the imperial system. Most people had long since accepted it as a matter of course. Hearing his words, anger swelled in Mu Wanqing's heart. She dealt Duan Yu a heavy blow right on his cheeks. A loud cracking sound could be heard, loud, sharp, and clear. This blow knocked him silly, causing the half-eaten steamed bun in his hand to fall to the ground. All he could say was, You! Mu Wanqing angrily said, I refuse to acknowledge him as my father. If a man takes on multiple wives, then he has no conscience. If a person has split desires and a split mind when it comes to love, then that person is faithless and heartless. Gently caressing his swollen cheeks, Duan Yu let out a bitter laugh. I'm your elder brother. As my little sister, how can you be so disrespectful towards me? The grief and anger in Mu Wanqing's heart was difficult to bear. Upon hearing these words, she struck at him again. This time, Duan Yu was prepared. With a slip of the foot, he exercised his graceful steps upon the waves and dodged behind her. Mu Wanqing sent out a palm backwards, but Duan Yu avoided that one as well. Although the square room was only about 10 feet in diameter, the graceful steps upon the waves truly was a wondrous skill. Mu Wanqing's palm attacks came faster and faster now, but she wasn't able to hit him again. Mu Wanqing was all the more infuriated by this. Suddenly, she let out a loud cry of pain and pretended to fall down. Alarmed, Duan Yu asked, What's wrong? He bent over her, extending a hand to help her up. Classic mistake. Mu Wanqing leaned gently against his body. She hooked her left arm around his neck and suddenly tightened her grip. She laughed. Can you still run away from me now? She slapped him once again with her right hand, this time on his left cheeks. The ringing sound was extremely sharp and clear. Duan Yu was hurt, but only let out a single cry. Ow! Suddenly, he felt a warm stream rapidly rise up from his dantian. His blood vessels began to rapidly expand, filling him with an irresistibly sensual sensation. He suddenly was aware that the girl whom he had embraced within his bosom was delicately panting. Waves of fragrant scents filled the air, throwing his mind into great turmoil. He placed a kiss on her lips. What? Upon being kissed, Mu Wanqing's entire body immediately went soft. Duan Yu, still holding her body in his arms, set her down on top of the bed, then undid one of his buttons. I don't like where this is going, guys. Mu Wanqing said in a low voice, But you are my elder brother. I hope I don't have to do the voices if it happens. If they sleep together, I hope they don't say anything. Although Duan Yu's mind was in turmoil, this sentence struck him like a thunderbolt out of the clear sky. Stunned for a moment, he quickly released her and took 3 steps back. Attacking with both palms, he struck himself on his mouth 4 times. He cursed at himself. I deserve to die! I deserve to die! Mu Wanqing saw that both of his eyes were bloodshot and had a strange light in them. The flesh of his face was moving and churning. His nostrils were dilating, then contracting. Frightened, she said, darling Duan, there was poison in the food. We have been deceived. Oni-chan? Oh no. Oh. Oh yeah, I remember this part. They were poisoned, guys. They were, I think there was aphrodisiac in the food. Or there were aphrodisiacs in the food. Duan Yu felt as though his entire body was boiling up. as though he had been placed within a steamer and was being thoroughly steamed. Upon hearing Mu Wanqing cry that the food was poisoned, he was actually relieved. So, it was poison which threw my mind into chaos and caused me to act in such a depraved way towards my younger sister. It isn't as though I was an insane creature who had never read the classical scriptures, acting in ways which imitate beasts. But the heat coming from his body was truly hard to resist. Slowly he removed one article of clothing after another, until he wore but a single shirt and trousers. He sat down on his knees. His eyes focused on his nose, and his nose pointed towards his heart. With a powerful effort, he restrained the capricious desires the drug was causing. After consuming the cinnabar toad, he had become immune to all poisons. But the drug which had been put in the bowl of pork wasn't a poison which could actually harm a person's life. Rather, it was an aphrodisiac designed to generate lust. The desire for men and women to be together is inborn. This aphrodisiac only aroused the natural lusts, which are innate to every person, intensifying them and making them difficult to control. The cinnabar toad's venom could, using the principle of fighting poison with poison, counteract thousands of toxins. But this aphrodisiac was not actually poisonous. Thus, the cinnabar toad could do nothing for Duan Yu. Mu Wanqing was also feeling somewhat hot. After some time, it was more than she could bear, and she also removed her outer garments. Duan Yu called out, You can't take anything else off. Rest your back against the stone wall. It'll help you cool down. Both of them leaned back against the stone walls. Although their backs were cool, every inch of their chest, stomach, limbs, face, and necks, and other parts, felt as though they were being rolled in fire. Duan Yu saw that Mu Wanqing's cheeks were a fiery red, and that she appeared unspeakably lovable and glamorous. Tears glimmered in her eyes, and it was obvious that she would like nothing better to do than to throw herself in his embrace. Duan Yu thought to himself, At this moment, we need to be resolute in fighting off the effects of this drug, but our strength has limits. If we engaged in depraved, incestuous acts, we will have lost all faith for the Duan family. Even 100 deaths would not redeem such a heavy offense. He said, Give me one of your poisoned quarrels. Mu Wanqing asked, For what? Duan Yu said, If I become unable to withstand the strength of this drug, I'll use this quarrel to stab myself to death, so I won't harm you. Mu Wanqing said, I'm not giving it to you. Neither of them knew that the poison in the quarrel could do nothing to Duan Yu. Duan Yu said, You need to promise me something. Mu Wanqing said, What? If I so much as extend my hand and touch your body, you must shoot your quarrels and kill me. Mu Wanqing said, I refuse to promise you that. Duan Yu said, I'm begging you, promise me. The reputation of Dali's Duan dynasty, pure and clean for the past hundreds of years, cannot be ruined by my hand. Otherwise, how can I face my ancestors after death? Wait, they're siblings? Yeah, they're half-siblings. So it looks like that one old man trapped them in here, in this stone hut. Can a hut be called... Yeah, you can have a stone hut, right? Yeah, so the old man trapped them in this stone hut and fed them some aphrodisiacs so that they would sleep with each other. All right? For what reason? We don't know yet. Suddenly, a voice spoke from outside the stone room. Dali's Duan dynasty used to be awe-inspiring in the past, but then the kingship passed on to Duan Zhengming's hands. His mouth is filled with righteousness and moral platitudes, but he has the heart of a wolf and the innards of a dog. He's long since lost the Duan dynasty's pure reputation. Duan Yu angrily replied, "Who are you? You're full of shit." Mu Wanqing said in a low voice, "He's the freak in the green gown." Only to hear the man in green say, "Miss Mu, I promised that I'd help you turn your brother into your husband. I've taken this task to heart, and I will definitely accomplish it." Mu Wanqing angrily said, "You've poisoned the food to harm us. What does this have to do with my request?" The man in green replied, "In that bowl of red cooked pork, I placed a large quantity of the yin and yang conjoining powder. After being ingested, if yin and yang do not enter into a harmonious relationship, and the male and female do not become man and wife, then their flesh and skin will crack and split. They will bleed from their 7 orifices, then die. The potency of this conjoining powder grows with every day. On the 8th day, even if you were the great golden immortal Luo himself, you would not be able to hold it off." Okay. Confirmed. Okay, it was a trap by this old dude. Old man is probably gonna get off to. Duan Yu angrily replied, "There are neither enmities nor grievances between the two of us. Why did you cook up such a poisonous plot to harm me? You are trying to force me to lose all face as a man and cause my parents and my uncle to suffer shame for the rest of their life. I would rather die 100 deaths than to engage in such a shameless, depraved, incestuous act." The man in green replied, "Although neither enmities nor grievances exist between us, the grievances between your uncle and I are as deep as the oceans of the 4 seas. Duan Zhengming, Duan Zhengchun, I can imagine nothing better than for those 2 kids to lose all face and suffer lifelong shame and be unable to face others in the future. Wonderful, wonderful. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha." His lips could not move, so the sound of laughter emanated from his larynx, sounding all the more hideous and strange. Duan Yu was about to continue arguing, but out of the corner of his eye saw Mu Wanqing's beautiful face, which looked like the slumbering spring or a lovely cherry, and her slender body, which appeared as though it were a blooming hibiscus flower. His heart beat so frantically that even he was almost able to hear it. His brain was once more confused, and he thought to himself, "Little sister Wan and I originally had agreed to wed. If the 2 of us had not returned to Dali, we would have known that we were siblings. This is a karmic retribution born from the affairs of the heart of the previous generation. What does it have to do with the 2 of us?" When his thought process arrived at this point, he shakily rose to his feet, only to see that Mu Wanqing, her hand supporting her against the wall, was also slowly rising to her feet. Suddenly, within his heart, a sudden thought flashed by, striking upon it like a ray of sunlight on a flint stone. Cannot! Duan Yu, this is a critical moment where your actions will determine if you are a man or a beast. If you make the wrong choice now, not only will you suffer a complete and utter fall from grace, but you will also destroy your uncle and your father as well. He immediately cried out loudly, "Sister Wan, I am your elder brother, and you are my younger sister. You know that, right? Do you understand the Book of Changes?" In the midst of her fuzzy-headedness, Mu Wanqing heard him ask such a strange question. "Huh? Book of Changes? I don't know what you're talking about." Duan Yu replied, "All right, I'll teach you. The study of the Book of Changes is extremely difficult and abstruse. Listen carefully." Mu Wanqing was confused. She asked, "What good is it going to do me?" Duan Yu replied, "After you learn it, it will benefit you greatly, maybe the 2 of us can use it to escape from our current predicament." He felt that his desires were driving him mad. At the critical juncture between a man and a beast, 1,000 things rested upon this one decision, If Mu Wanqing rushed over to him and tried to seduce him, even but a little, his mental walls and willpower would surely crumble. The reason he wanted to teach her the Book of Changes was out of the hope that with one of those teachings, and the other, with one of them teaching and the other learning, their attention would be focused somewhere else, and they wouldn't think about the affairs between males and females. Abstruse definition? Crap. Confusing or hard to grasp? I would say abstruse means hard to grasp. Like is there another definition? Confusing? But isn't confusing hard to grasp? No, it's not. Shit. I think that's the definition. We're gonna go with hard to grasp in your mind. Yeah? Yeah? Let's do that. Let's go with that. Aha! Why did they use the same word? Obscure. Hard to understand. Just means confusing? Okay. I hit the nail on the hand. Thanks. Thanks. He said, the basics of the Book of Changes rest in the Taiji. The absolute ultimate from Taiji is born Liang Yi. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. We don't need to go through all that, do we? Mu Wanqing replied, no, I don't. Wait. Do you know what the Bagua trigram looks like? Mu Wanqing replied, no, I don't. This is so annoying. My darling Duan, come over here. I have something I want to tell you. Duan Yu said, I'm your brother. Don't call me darling Duan. Call me elder brother. I'll tell you the secret mantra of the Bagua diagram. Concentrate and do your best to remember it. Qian is like 3 links. Kun is 6 pieces. Zhen stares at the cup. Gen overflows the bowl. Within Li's is emptiness. Within Kan is fullness. Above Dui is deficiency. Below Shun is absoluteness. Mu Wanqing repeated it after him once, then asked, what's this cup and water and food bowl stuff all about? What are you talking about? Duan Yu replied, this is the shape of the Bagua diagram. You must understand the hidden meaning of the Bagua. All living things in the world, bar none, are encompassed by it. Let's use family as an example. Qian is the father, Kun is the mother, Chen is the eldest son, Shun is the eldest daughter. We're siblings, so I would be the Chen trigram, and you would be the Shun trigram. Mu Wanqing lazily said, no, you are the Qian trigram, and I am the Kun trigram. We'll become husband and wife. Only in the future, when we have children, will the Chen trigram and the Shun trigram appear. Duan Yu, hearing her speak so sluggishly, yet flirtatiously, was that supposed to be flirtatious? Couldn't help but be moved. He quickly said, don't think crazy thoughts. Keep listening to me speak. Mu Wanqing replied, If you come sit next to me, I'll listen to you speak. Only to hear the man in green say from outside the room, excellent, excellent. After the 2 of you become husband and wife and give birth to sons and daughters, I will release you 2. Not only will I not kill you, but I will teach you two all the martial arts I possess, and set you two to rampage across all the land under heaven. Duan Yu angrily replied, At the last hour, the two of us will kill ourselves by smashing our heads against the stone walls. The scions of Dali's Duan dynasty would rather die than be disgraced. You want to revenge yourself upon my body? Forget it. The man in green replied, You dying is fine. You living is fine. I don't care. If you two chose the path of death instead, I will strip your bodies naked, removing every stitch of clothing. I'll write on your bodies that you two are the nephew and niece of Dali's Duan Zhengming and Duan Zhengchun's children. I will write that while you two secretly had conjugal relations with each other, you were discovered by others, and that in your shame and anger, you committed suicide. I will preserve your bodies with salt, then hang your bodies up above Dali's main gate for 3 days. Then I will go to the city of Kaifeng, Luoyang, Linnan, and Guangzhou and publicly expose your body there as well. Duan Yu was absolutely livid. He roared, How exactly did my Duan family offend you for you to retaliate in such a malicious way against us? The man in green replied, Why should I discuss my own affairs with a little kid like you? After saying this, he fell silent. Duan Yu realized that every time he spoke with Mu Wanqing, he increased the danger of their situation by another degree. Turning, he sat facing the wall and began to deeply ponder the secrets behind the graceful steps upon the waves. After pondering the dazzlingly complicated footwork for a long time, he suddenly thought to himself, The dear goddess in the stone cavern is 10 times more beautiful than Sister Duan. Well, don't have to do her like that, what? That's rude. If I must marry, only by marrying that dear goddess will I have not married in vain. In a dazed state, he turned his head, then saw Mu Wanqing's beautiful face slowly turn into that of the stone cavern's jade statue. Duan Yu shouted loudly, Dearest goddess, I'm suffering so miserably right now. Please, come rescue me. Oh no! Her face turned into the face of that jade statue that he's in love with. Now he thinks she is her. He knelt down on the spot and embraced Mu Wanqing's calf. At this moment, a voice came from outside. Time to eat! Wait, there's another dude. Time to eat! A lit red candle was tossed in. The person laughed. Quick, catch! It is your first night of spring-like lust in the marital chambers. How can there not be a flower-scented candle? Startled, Duan Yu rose to his feet. By the glow of the candle, he saw Mu Wanqing's eyelashes ripple, beautiful beyond description. With a single breath, he blew the candle out. He shouted back, There's poison in the food. Take it away. We're not eating. The person replied, You were poisoned long ago and consumed a sufficiently large dose. There's no need to add more. Then he sent in the rice and the dishes. This guy is pure evil. He had this all planned out. Truth. This is a very evil thing to do to someone. Duan Yu accepted the food, placing it on the table. He thought to himself, After a person dies, all comes to an end. With regards to issues that come up after his death, how can he possibly be concerned? Then he had a second thought. Father, mother, and my uncle have loved me so dearly. How can I allow the Duan family to be laughed at by the world? Suddenly he heard Mu Wanqing gently say, My darling Duan, I am going to commit suicide with my poisoned corals so I won't end up harming you. Duan Yu shouted, Wait! Even after the two of us, brother and sister, die, this evil man will not be done with us. This man is vicious and dangerous. Compared to the baby-murdering Yu Erniang or the heart-ripping divine crocodile, he's even more evil. Who can this man possibly be? Ah, only to hear that man in a green gown say in a low voice, "Kid, you have some experience after all. This old man is the chief of the four great evils. I am known as evil beyond human capacity." And we're done with the chapter. Okay, so revealed at the end, this is the fourth evil, or the number one guy, okay? So he's the number one in the four evils. So what do you think? Is he more evil than the other three? This is a pretty evil thing to do. Oh, Dan, you called it? Good job. Good job. Yeah, so this is evil number one. Stuff's so good.